First of all, you were greeted at the table by one of our eminent organizers, Marie Johnson, our president of ASD. Who just hates it when I talk about her or rave about all the work that they do. Back there, Nader Salahuddin, and Nader is also a board member and one of the founders of the San Diego Black and Brown Lives Matter Coalition that meets at ASD on the second and fourth Tuesdays. We have many others, but Floyd Morrow, former city councilman, known worldwide as the Texan who escaped to the liberal paradise of San Diego. Nancy and Dick Cassidy, who have no role in ASD other than to have been to more of these events than just about anybody I can think of. Running, as Derek says, the socialist enterprise of the OB People's Food Co-op. Marlene, who is here, maker of beans and putting up with a lot of beans. Jerry Toolsey, who's back there, who's kind of a board member in training right now. Professor with great wisdom. Sonia Cobos Medina, and a lot of the food that showed up here and all of the details that got done. She'll tell you about a few of the people that donated and restaurants that donated food. I do want to introduce our former board member and ever present activist and cultural connoisseur, Tara Nicole.
Thanks, y'all. Glad you can make it out tonight. I'm super excited to be here. I'll be performing a little later, but right now, to open up the festivities, we have Sarah Messenger, super special. She's been composing and performing since she was 13 years old professionally. She's been touring internationally. She was featured on the original Earth Day at the Washington Monument grounds. And yeah, that's kind of special, so we can celebrate that. She's been a political activist and writing music since that time also. So she's worked with many of the finest musicians in Los Angeles and abroad, and we're super special and really special that you can make it out for us tonight. So please welcome her with a nice warm round of applause.
Wonderful. Such a lovely and talented assistant. It's great. Anyway, hi. It's a privilege to be here. It's always great to be among people who have hearts and minds at the same time. I completely prepared the wrong material for today because I thought it was like going to be a big outdoor event, and I completely... So I'm kind of ad-libbing here, but I'm thinking, given the fact that we're eating, I don't want to be as heavy as usual. So I'll just do kind of like a humorous poem to start out, a real shorty. This is called Poetry and Prozac.
Yay.
Hold this thing here. Yes. Okay. Well, 1984 is come and gone. I guess George Orwell was totally wrong. There are no insidious wall-sized screens that distract our minds and define our dreams. There are no hidden cameras at all in public streets or workplace walls. It's not like they're testing our blood for enjoyments that then preclude our right to employment. He must have been a fanatical fool to think media could be propaganda's tool, and that we'd be sold mood-altering drugs to keep us from becoming revolutionary thugs. How paranoid paranoid he was to project that our journals would be read, that our thoughts would be suspect, if we varied from the ruling party line and dissented from the notion that all was fine. He must have been a lunatic to think that he could guess that in the future there would be a way to thoroughly access our most personal information, from the places that we frequent to the magazines we read, or if our payments were delinquent. And to think that some big brother would track our trips from Rome to Tarryton with some electronic leash or other, as if any fool would carry one. What a pessimistic loser. What an evolutionary throwback. I'd set him straight in my poetry, but it's time to take my Prozac. Thank you. And now we have a choice. I'm just doing a real short set here, but I just thought I'd read a couple of spoken word pieces before I sang my hit song. I ask you, which subject matter would we rather cover? This is a poem called Think Big that's about our corporate overseers. Then I have a very touching poem about my mother getting cancer. It also has some political underpinnings about poverty. Then what else was I going to do? Oh, Poverty Moved In, another poem that talks about poverty. What do you think? Or some other subject. I've got some about everything almost.
Corporate overseers.
All right, I'll go with the corporate overseers. What?
Land value taxation.
Wow. I think I'll have to put that on my next song to write list. Okay. We'll go with the corporate overseers. This is another kind of humorous one. This poem might grow up someday to be a song, but it hasn't yet, so here's Think Big. One day as I went walking down the carpeted corporate halls, I heard a fair lad talking in one of the adjacent stalls. He was being given advice by a terribly nice man in a fatherly tone, and glancing in his direction, on closer inspection, I saw it was the CEO. Such things as I heard that fateful day from this huge conglomerate's head are such that I feel I should share every word, and this is what he said. You gotta think big. You gotta think more. You gotta think whole countries and industries and get in on the ground floor. Little jobs are for little men with their little bills to pay. And for their little-mindedness will make them slave and pray in little boxes and cubicles until their dying day, while we whittle what little time they have away. But now it seems this boy had dreams of a life with more adventure, and so he strayed from the offer made by his megalomaniacal mentor. When he got the call, the old man was bereft. The boy asked him to post bail, silver platter and all, for a petty theft. This boy had gotten nailed. But as he left his cell, prison personnel were said to overhear the man bellowing the following as he pulled the younger by the ear. He said, "Boy, I'm so ashamed. Have you learned nothing about the way to play this game? Don't you know the way things go? Do you hear a word I speak? Are you undeserving of observing my technique? You gotta steal big. You gotta steal more. You gotta steal whole countries and industries and resources galore. Petty theft is for little men with pitiful intentions. If there ain't 7 figures, hell, it's not worth your attention. Working hard's for suckers. Working smart is better yet. It's best just let others do your work while you collect. Pay your laborers slave wages, now that's the way to steal. Form a church and milk the masses with missionary zeal. To buy property and rent it out, I'm particularly prone. Let others buy your property if they can't afford their own. Call your thievery insurance, although it takes a little gall to get the gullible to pay each month for what? Nothing at all. Sure, the ethicists will stage a fit and they may call you a pig. But if you want to get away with it, boy, you gotta steal big. Now, this boy had qualms. He'd read the Psalms and didn't think it right to constantly do unto others what perverts do in the night. When he slit his wrists, the specialists were called in to diagnose. They were less than enchanted as the old man ranted while the boy lay comatose. But the eeriest thing was the familiar ring it had to the suicide note Word for word, everything they heard was exactly what he wrote. You gotta kill big. You gotta kill more. You gotta kill off whole nationalities and cultures by the score. Suicide is for little men who lack imagination. If it ain't full-blown genocide, it's not worth contemplation. Wars with bombs and bayonets. Hey, now there's the ticket. Send mercenaries to do your dirty work, because they know how to stick it. State-sanctioned executions, now there's another bracket. Fry the competition if they just can't seem to hack it. High-priced pharmaceuticals, irradiated foods, slash people, not prices. That's the gilded rule. Sure, the ethicists will stage a fit, and they may call you a pig. But if you want to get away with it, boy, you gotta kill big. Okay. Those are fast, so we can do that. Okay. It's a true story. This is called I Always Knew. I always knew my mother would get cancer because she didn't write poetry, because she didn't sing on the stage, because she wasn't an actress, because she sang and danced for the neighborhood children, because she wrote poetry for the ladies of the Ladies Auxiliary, for her friends' anniversaries, the co-workers' promotions, the small auspicious occasions. And these were no small poems, no Hallmark card verses, but expertly crafted biographies, a lifetime made succinct, achievements made memorable, failings and frailties cradled in laughter and love. I always knew my mother would someday discover a hard lump in her flesh where she stored all the broken and nearly forgotten things. The rats that chased her tiny plump toddler's limbs in Bedford-Stuyvesant, the boy who would not marry this woman of another people against all reason, against the strength and logic of their passion. She would put these memories into her body, along with the dream that must be put aside, to survive the Depression years, to provide for the parents who spoke no English, and to raise her 3 relentlessly troubled children. When they took her breast, she showed me where they cut her, and I was not ready for the ugliness. I wanted to hold her. I wanted to fix it. I wanted to demand an answer for what had been done to my mother. I wanted to save her. But all I can do is take the stage and sing and write poetry. For my mother, I write poetry. This is what I mostly do is music. And actually, if I'd known there was a piano there, that is my main instrument. But this is my hit political song. I cover almost every issue in this. I realized I missed GMO crops. I'm going to have to write a whole other song just for that. But we got almost everything else in here. So a little something for everybody. We got a verse for the fact that it's International Women's Day month. We've got a couple of references for Black History Month. I know last month was Black History Month, but I believe that every month is Black History Month, and we're making Black History right here now. So anyway, I thank you all for listening so wonderfully. And my name is Sarah Messenger, and I hope I'll get to know you all better, and we'll work together and save the world. And thank you very much. This is called Freest Country in the World.
I'm so glad that I live in the US of A. It's the freest country in the world, where there's plenty of work, you just can't live on the pay. Yeah, it's the freest country in the world. But this earth was once held in indigenous hands, before the first flag was unfurled.
unfurl. So what we could use and kill what we could not understand from the freest country in the world. Let the Chinese build the railroads, let the Irish work the mines to keep the rich in diamonds and pearls. And let Africans slave without so much as a dime to build the freest country in the world. And with pride people died for my right to vote in the fairest system in the world. I'd like to be represented, but the chance is remote with the highest priced elections in the world. America, America, God shed some tears for thee, that we may wake from our mistakes, from sea to finally see. Push the farmers off the land, raise the rents out of reach, so that only the rich can be rural. Then pretend that being homeless isn't a day at the beach in the richest country in the world. And no one, sorry, there's so many verses to this song, what is it? Oh yeah. Now they send all the jobs over, now they send all the jobs far away overseas to exploit the powerless of the world. That way millions can slave so that few men can be the freest criminals in the world. No one fights, though our rights are under attack. Highest prison population in the world. But you're still innocent until proven Arab or black. The freest country in the world. America, America, God shed some tears for thee, that we may wake from our mistakes, from sea to finally see. Steal the oil, steal the airwaves, steal anything at all, every valuable resource in the world. If you're ruthless enough, hey, why do you think they call it the freest country in the world? But my sisters and I hold up half of the sky in every corner of the world. We do the baking, but we don't get a piece of the pie. Yeah, we're the cheapest labor in the world. We bomb the blood out of babies if they happen to be in Vietnam, or Japan, or Korea, or Panama, or Kosovo, or Grenada, or Afghanistan, or Philadelphia, or Iraq, or Iraq, or Iraq, and that's our role in the world. Now I pray for the day every country is free from the freest country in the world. Yes, they said it was the land of liberty, and we believe them as good boys and girls. But now we won't rest until it can actually be the freest country in the world. No, we won't rest until every country is free from the freest country in the world. Thank you very much.
So we advertise this as awesome music, awesome culture, and how about awesome food? Is this some awesome food? Sonia, tell us who brought the awesome food.
Hi guys. Are you enjoying your dinner tonight? Yes. That was very great. Are you guys enjoying your dinner tonight? Awesome. Right? Very eclectic, very rich. A lot of people work to bring this food here tonight. We had a lot of volunteers: Floyd, Lucy, Martin, Marie, but we also have some supporters. Where's Lucy? But we also have some supporters. Yeah, lentils from Lucy, and plus a special recipe. Okay, but we also have some supporters, and they brought some of the food too. And I invite you, please, to show your gratefulness to them by going and paying a visit whenever you feel like having a nice lunch like this one. And mention KNSJ, please. One of them is Restaurante Antojitos Colombianos. They are located on Imperial Avenue, and they also have catering. So whenever you feel like authentic Colombian food, you can always call. Please pick up.
Imperial and 29th, I just had lunch there today.
Oh my gosh, you should mention us. Totally, okay, cool. So they are our supporters, so please support them too. Yes, the food is awesome, it's authentic Colombian food, and they are supporting KNSJ, and they have pledged to keep supporting us on future events. So please mention KNSJ, pay a visit, and try some really good food. Also, Share Punjab, this is Indian, authentic Indian food. They have several locations. This particular one is from Sorrento Valley, but on any location you can mention KNSJ, and then just mention that you knew about them. So please pick up a business card from them and keep them in mind. They also have catering if you feel like, having a party with authentic Indian food. So thank you, and thank you so much. I really hope you enjoy your dinner. What else, please?
We have ice cream from none other than Mariposa Ice Cream. So you're welcome to do. I do want to say we're going to wash every one of these plastic cups and every one of these the plastic silverware. It doesn't go into the trash. You can put your trash over there, or we'll come and pick it up. So we're gonna recycle. A couple of other things that I want to mention just before we go to the main act, and that is that Activist San Diego was born 16 years ago on Earth Day, and so we're going to have 2 booths at Earth Day, and we would like the participation of as many of you as possible out there. It's a chance to meet literally thousands of people, and we want to have enough people that we can have some conversations and do some networking. Among the things that we are starting that's very new is we're developing a relationship with a company that's it's called B Corp, and you'll have to look up a little video about B Corp. Those are socially responsible businesses. Sungevity is a supplier of solar panels, and they are doing their marketing through nonprofit organizations, which saves them $750 of kind of advertisement. So if you are going to put solar panels on your house, you get $750, and they give $750 to Activist San Diego. And you're going to put SDNG out of business. And so that's part of our new agenda, is supporting ourselves with sustainable kinds of income. I also want to, Brian Poldis, one of the many other notables, here, part of the Labor Council. We should have had a lot more labor people here, probably more our fault than theirs, but thank you, Brian, for being here. My apologies, Michelle. I didn't know that, was he? You're right.
Or Ramon.
And Ramon, thank you.
Susan is labor too. We have a lot of labor people, we're just not.
We're not, okay.
We didn't come out very well.
All right, turn it over to Sarah Nicole. Thank you for coming.
Hi, everybody. I'm gonna get a little interactive kind of thing. So my name is Sarah Nicole. I'm an artist and singer-songwriter and social activist. My family tends to think I'm a charity case. My dad says, "What are you doing helping people? You're a charity case." I'm like, "Well, we all take turns, right?" So I would like to introduce you to a couple of my favorite songs that are kind of in the vein of what we all do and are proud to spend our time doing, helping others and being reflective in general. So this song is called "I Believe." Holy Maker always been intrigued, nearly always question me. Think of all the people who have come before me. Some line again. It seems so sure what happens next. But I'm concerned for now and all the people running round. Causing havoc, playing just to pronounce it to you guys. So, thanks for yours. Okay, no problem. So, hope you guys enjoyed that. We have George Mann in the house. What? Really? Okay, one more. Here's a slow one to lead you straight into the rest of the night. It's called Battles, and now about how we have our internal battles, and then we have the ones we don't ask for that just kind of show up at our front step, right? So. Some battles are chosen, some battles are found, some battles are needed, others you can do without. Some people are proven to start being with you, make the worst of the moment when you're just trying to forget. I'm at the start of the race again. Jump a hurdle about facing disaster strikes again. Sure enough, you've got tough love. Surely you need a break. Sure the break eventually always happens that way. Sure to get advice from those who come your way. So you always need to tell them it wasn't always this way. But what's the winning there? Those things remain the same. Troubles may change if you let them. But I know the feeling when you just can't get away. So it makes you feel better. Please do explain. I'm at the start of the race again. Jump a hurdle about facing disaster strikes again. Some battles are chosen, some battles are found. Some battles are needed, others you can do without. Thanks, you guys. We're gonna set that up. We're gonna get George Mann up here. Appreciate that. And anybody who has been at one of the last George Mann concerts.
We're going to be handing around a petition, and for all those people who think that the Chargers should be spending their own money for their new business rather than put it on the taxpayers' back. These are sports fans for economic equality here, so we'll pass it around and.
Well, thank you, everybody. Have a seat. We'll get going, okay? I hope you got a chance to stretch and get some of that wonderful food and the ice cream, of course. I'm so glad to be back seeing you all. I came here last January. Thank you. You said you saw me last year, and I said, why'd you come back? No, good. Well, because I heard apparently you like good activism and good music, and this is a nice, wonderful night. Thank you first off to Sarah and to Tara. Sarah and Tara, right? And good poetry. Nice stories. And I'm from New York, like you were once. And just like you, I left New York City about 4.5 years ago. And now I live in Ithaca, where it's a little more peaceful and sane and quiet. Still a little loud, Tara. It's good to be back, yeah. I'm going to just sing what comes to mind tonight. I ain't got no home, I'm just a rambling round. What do you got? Just a wandering worker, and I go from town to town. And all these making hard all wherever I may go. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. That's your line. My brothers and my sisters, they are stranded on this road. It's a hard and dusty road that a million feet after all. Rich man took my home and drove me from my door. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. I was born on the shelf, Lord, and always I was poor. My crops I laid into the banker's store. My wife looked down and died on my cabin floor. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. As I look around, it is mighty plain to see this wide and wicked world is a funny old place to be. The gambling man is rich, oh, and the working man is poor. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Oh, I ain't got no home, I'm just a rambling round. And I'm just a wandering worker, and I'm going from town to town. And the police make it hard, Lord, wherever around me go. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Yeah, the police make it hard, Lord, wherever I may go. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Well, thank you. Now, boy, I've been traveling a lot since I saw you. When I saw you last January, I was in the middle of a little bit of a West Coast tour. Not much of a tour, but I was up at the Western Workers Festival in San Francisco, the great festival that they've been holding for 29 years now. And all my great labor folk singers in San Francisco were part of that. One of the great ones, John Fromer, who had passed away just a year and a half ago, right? And Charlie King, Ann Feeney, and all great labor folk singers who've been doing this kind of work for a long time. Oh boy, that's a little too much. I got fans on both. I got fans all around. Thank you. Just one. Just a little there. Thanks. But and I was on my way last year. I don't know if I told you this, those of you who were here. I was out here for about 2 weeks, and then I was going home to Ithaca to the winter again for about 6 days, and then getting on a plane to Australia and going back into the summer, which of course my mom didn't raise no fool. I don't tour Australia in August. I toured in January. Get out in New York winter. So I just come back again, about 4 or 5 weeks ago from Australia. I go there every year. It's a lovely time. Great people, great folk music world, and a lot of great labor folk. People who love labor songs particularly. They have a great labor movement there. Weekend like ours is here, of course. I think they're down to 18% in Australia, and we're hovering at about 11% represented by unions in our nation, right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm so glad to be back here because in November, this thing that's coming through here, and I've already mentioned it to some of you, it's going to be coming through San Diego. We want Activist San Diego to be in charge, or at least part of it, your labor council, and certainly the IWW. I'm wearing my Wadley shirt today. I'm a member of the IWW, the Industrial Workers of the World, right? 1905 we were founded, and this year marks the 100th anniversary of the murder of Joe Hill, great Wadley folk singer. Some of you know the song Joan Baez sang at Woodstock, of course. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night. And we're going to be doing a tour to commemorate his life in 4 different legs, kicking off May Day in Chicago, where the IWW was born, and then going in July through the Northeast, which I'll be part of, going from Washington all through to New England, and then September in the fall, and then we want to start either in San Diego or San Pedro, where Joe was active, November 5th. We already have the schedule kind of worked out, because we want to make it up to South Salt Lake City, where he was executed by Friday the 20th. He was executed on the 19th. But John McCutcheon, the great folk artist, who tonight Can you believe it? Last year, I was here in January, and John was doing the same concert 30 miles from here. At the night of the year, and 2 months later, he's doing the same concert here. So he's probably where some of our friends are, you know? And I should scold him for booking the same dates, you know? But, John,
November 5th this year, 2015.
that's the day you want to kick off the last leg in San Diego.
2015.
This year, yes, this very year, and I'll certainly keep in touch with you and the others on this. But Joe Hill, for those of you who don't know, he was a great wobbly folk singer and activist, and he worked with the IWW, organized, and he particularly rose to fame as the greatest songwriter in the IWW. You know, you've got the Little Red Songbook, some of you know what I'm talking about. There's 5 or 6 of Joe's songs in that book, right? And I'm going to sing you the one that made him famous, or at least the one that got him going in the IWW. The Preacher and the Slave. Now, this was written for the free speech fight in Spokane, Washington in 1910. And you go, what's a free speech fight? Well, now I have to read about this stuff and, you know, just get more of my background for this tour. You know, we think we have a First Amendment that says we have the freedom of speech. Well, yes, but unless you fight back when they try to take that away from you, you're not really free, right? And the Wobblies understood that. They understood that nobody can give you free speech. You're born with it, right? What's the famous Supreme Court ruling? It says everybody has free speech, except you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, right? Is the analogy they said. That's something that puts the public in immediate danger. Well, what cities started doing to stop the IWW from organizing, because they held street meetings, and they stood on corners and talked to people and tried to organize the workers. That way, they passed ordinances saying you couldn't hold a street meeting without a permit. Or, in some cases, no more than 3 people could talk together, or else they'd be breaking the law. So if the 3 of us are having a conversation, the 4th one entering, would break the law. Now, in many cities, they exempted the Salvation Army from that ordinance. And that particularly bothered Joe. He puts them in the song as a Starvation Army. But in other cities, and I'm talking Fresno, I'm talking, you know, Portland, Fresno, San Diego, there was a battle here, 1912, 1913, I believe, right? In other cases, they banned everybody. So the IWW wasn't just fighting for themselves. They were fighting to preserve the principle of free speech for even the Salvation Army, or those who would be opposed to our views. And the courage that these workers had, the beatings, the jailings that they took on behalf of First Amendment rights is something that we need to remember. Joe rose to prominence when he wrote this song for that fight in Spokane. And what happened was, of course, the Salvation Army was exempted, so he puts them in. And it's a chorus, it's to the tune of Sweet By and By. It's a very easy song, right? You know this, some of you. So I want to hear you. As Utah Phillips would say, we sing this Baptist style. I sing and you respond, right? So when we get to the chorus, it's, you will eat, by and by, in that glorious land above the sky. And then we all sing, way up high. Work and pray, live on hay, you'll get pie in the sky. When you die, that's a lie, right? And that's how the word pie in the sky, the term pie in the sky, entered the American lexicon, it's slang, from Joe's song. Because they were preaching, don't worry about how bad your life is here. Don't try to improve your lot in life here. Don't organize against those employers. Just give your money to the Salvation Army, put your faith in Jesus, and you'll get pie in the sky when you die. What's that? That's a lie. So sing along with me. Long-haired preachers come night every night, try to tell you what's wrong and what's right. Oh, and that's how I have something to eat. You'll answer in voices so sweet. Everybody, you will eat by and by, in that glorious land above the sky. Way up high, work and pray, live on hay. That's the best you can do? Yo, yeah! High in the sky when you die. That's a lie. The Starvation Army they play. They sing and they clap and they pray till they've got all your coin on the drum. They'll tell you when you're on the bum, you will eat, by and by, in that glorious land above the sky. Well high, work and pray, live on hay. Y'all get pie in the sky when you die. That's why if you work hard for children and wife, try to get something good in this life, or sit around and Batman they tell. When you die you will sure go to hell. You will eat by and by, in that glorious land above the sky. Well high, work and pray, live on hay. Don't get pie in the sky when you freedom will fight. When this world and its wealth we have gained, to the grafters we'll sing this refrain. Now listen close. You believe, I am I. When you learn how to cook and how to fry, chop some wood. It'll do you good, And you'll be in that sweet by and by. That's no lie. I know we've got some good labor activists here and activists of all stripes, and that's wonderful. Because I grew up in the labor movement, so to speak. I came from a family. My parents weren't active in their unions per se, but my mother was a teacher, Ramon. I mentioned to you earlier. She taught learning disabilities. My father was a truck driver. So they knew the value of the union. My mother's living on her union pension and got her union health care. I didn't have to worry about the Republicans stealing or taking away Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, as we like to call it, not Obamacare. But it wasn't until I entered graduate school, believe it or not, at SUNY, in the State University of New York system, that I got involved in the labor movement myself, because we were fighting for a labor union for graduate teaching assistants in SUNY. And it took us 8 years to win the right to have a vote. Because SUNY fought us tooth and nail and said we weren't employees. And you know what I'm talking about. People teach the undergraduate courses, assist in the research laboratories, assist in the offices at the college and grade, often as teaching assistants to their full professors who are teaching large sections. In many cases, these PhD candidates, teaching assistants, would teach the same philosophy 101 course for 4 years in a row. And then SUNY was trying to argue, well, this is part of their professional development. They're not really working. But if you're teaching the same course, you're just grading papers, and you're eligible for W-2 status, right? You're getting taxes taken out. You're eligible for unemployment from the federal government. It took us 8 years to win in the Public Employment Relations Board. When we finally won the case, and they stopped fighting us, because they took it into the courts after that for another year and a half. We won the election in 1992 at 85% of the statewide. That was my first job as an organizer. And then I went into the musicians union and worked for the New York Later too for a good 6 years in New York City. Until I finally got to the point where I knew I couldn't play music and do organizing, and I wasn't doing justice to either one of them, because I wanted to play music more than I wanted to organize in the end. And it took a few more years. I did another stint with CWA, and eventually I became a tool. I took the vow of poverty and became a folk singer. And it's worked out just fine, the vow of poverty, of course. But it's wonderful. You get to meet such wonderful people, and I come into your life, and all I can do tonight is give you spirit, to give you encouragement, and recharge your batteries a little, hopefully, right?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Oh, I don't get it. I thought Dave was making some kind of sign to me, like there's no.
Turn your volume.
What, my voice? Okay. Okay. Oh, stay on the mic. Okay, good enough. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So that's what I see my job as, is going around the country and singing for people like you who don't get an applause after your nice work day of work, or sitting on a picket line for 5 hours, or helping some workers find economic justice, right? That's part of what our job is as folk singers. And also to remind you where we come from and talk about these issues. Sometimes, our folk singers, our introductions tend to be longer than our songs sometimes. Right? And I try to fight that, but you want people to know where these songs come from. And you want them to remember the battles that they came from, especially the historical ones, So I want to sing you one of mine, and I'm going to mix it up to sing a little bit of mine and certain songs and talk about some of my heroes, like Pete Seeger and Utah Fellows, and their songs, Woody Guthrie, of course, and Joe Hill. But this is a song I wrote for veterans, and I do a lot of work with veterans, and I'm sure we probably got at least a couple veterans in the audience. I know we got at least one. Yeah, I was talking to one earlier, yeah. And those on the right tend to say, "Oh, we hate the veterans. That's that's how they divide us, right?" We were talking about this a little bit earlier, right? Divide and conquer. We always need an enemy. Corporate mergers and power getting bigger and bigger, and meanwhile destroying small towns and mom and pop stores and little businesses, right? So I never really had a lot of kinship with veterans years ago, because I was a lefty and was against war and always have been, and didn't really know many veterans. But I started singing in veterans' homes about 8 or 10 years ago, and now it's part of my life when I'm not on the road. I sing for I think at last count, 62 veterans nursing homes upstate New York. Mostly nursing homes, but 5 veterans homes I'm in regularly. I go every Friday to one home and I'm not on the road. And it can get tough, you know, and boy, if there's a veterans home nearby and you ever got a free afternoon, or even a nursing home, go visit some of those people.
Tula Vista Veterans Home.
Huh? Tula Vista? Yeah, where is that nearby?
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, so as Utah Phillips said, there's stories there that will die with these people unless we hear them and bring them out, you know? So this is a story about a young veteran thanking the Vietnam era veterans for coming back to help them understand what they were experiencing, post-traumatic stress disorder, disorientation, when they come back after combat. There's a project, I'm sure you've heard of it, the Welcome Home Project, right? And they did a retreat in 2008, and there's a film that they made out of it called The Welcome. You can find all this online, thewelcomehomeproject.org. And they brought about 20 veterans together. Half of them roughly, you know, young veterans from the Iraq and Afghanistan campaigns, and the rest of them were Vietnam era vets. And the Vietnam vets were there to tell the kids, look, what you're experiencing, we've been living with for 40 years. And it gets better, right? It does get better. And you can see your way past it, but you have to understand that you're not alone. And so this young woman, they wrote their work, they published it in a book, Memorial Day up at the Shakespeare Theater there in Ashland, Oregon. They read their pieces to the crowd, to the audience, not just as a catharsis for them, but as a way of saying, hey, you in the community have a responsibility to the veterans in your town. Don't forget them. Don't forget their families, right? Record suicides. 22 suicides a day is what I heard on the news the other day, on average among our military. Domestic violence, spousal abuse, child abuse, right? That's part of it too. You know, you turn these boys and girls into killing machines, they don't just flick them off, you know? Unemployment, drugs, alcohol abuse, all that stuff. It's all, I like to call that the Bush legacy, right? And that's what we'll be dealing with for the rest of their lives and the rest of our lives. So, so part of my mission is to kind of make sure people understand that. Hate the war, fight the wars, fight against the wars, oppose the wars, try to stop them from sending our young people over there to kill. And to kill all the people that we kill, because we killed so many more thousand than ever we ever lose. And so this young woman, she writes this piece. She says, thank you, the Vietnam vets. I'm walking through this valley, she says, and I feel alone. And I look, and there's a path up the hill that's cleared. So I start heading that way. And I see you up there at the top, and you wave to me. And the path, you come down and talk to me and say, the path to healing is uncertain. We've been working on this path for 40 years. Don't know that we'll ever get home ourselves. But we've hacked most of the way through ourselves. And then we turned around, and we saw you coming. And knew we had to come back to get you. And as long as you walk that path, we'll walk it together until we hopefully all get home. And it was when I heard that poem in the book, I knew about this project. I read the book. A friend, Dan Shea, who was a poet out of Portland, a member of Veterans for Peace, it was part of that project. That's when I knew my next album would be an album of songs about war and what people do. And I produced a lot of compilations that did a whole series of anti-Bush albums, anti-George Bush albums, of course, right? Called Hail to the Thief. People like Tom Paxton, Utah Phillips, they're there. They're, our friend in the back, who had to leave with his 2 daughters, bought a copy because he says, I hate Bush, I can't wait to hear this album. You know? And there's a lot of great artists who are on them, man. Feeney, Kim and Reggie Harris, you know, great. Well, on the East Coast, these artists are known better than out here, I guess, but even David Rovitz was on a couple of them. And David has a song on that Veterans album, Johnny Came Marching Home. And Tom Paxton gave us his song, The Welcome, you know. And so we're talking about doing another one later this year, you know, because 5 years later, problems are just there, still there, they're even worse. So I'll try to keep the introduction short from now on, but I wanted to tell you where this song came from. And it's called Streams of Gold, and those of you who served, and those of you who know veterans know, I mean, I've heard this said many times by veterans, you know, when you're in combat, when you're trying to survive every day, you think, when I get home, the streets will be paved with gold, right, if you survive. But then you find out all these problems are still there. And all you want is a decent life and happiness for you and your family. And that's what I hope we can get. And we don't get there unless the resources are there, and unless good people like us make sure we keep an eye on those families and the kids and the wives and the husbands. of our veterans. Streams ago. I was walking through a valley, but he was upon my feet, feeling beat, feeling tired. I was falling to my knees when I came upon a clearing, sign someone been there before. As I walked into the open, up ahead of me I saw someone coming down the mountain, waving to me through the rain. He looked back and saw you coming. He said, let me explain. There'll be fields of plenty, there'll be streams of gold, there'll be smiling, healthy children. I am told, oh, I realize you must walk alone. I will walk this trail beside you to your home. 40 years ago we started, as we came home from a war. And like you, we hadn't figured out what we were fighting for. Call it duty, call it honor, love, country, or revenge. We have seen enough of killing, we just want some peace again. There'll be fields of plenty, there'll be streams of gold, there'll be smiling healthy children. I'm told, though I realize you must walk alone. I will walk this trail beside you to your home. I'm still walking through that valley, getting closer to my home. I'm so glad you're with me, bro. Now I know I'm not alone. I see other men and women, all the wounded from this war. We will carry one another till we all get through that door. There'll be fields of plenty, there'll be streams of gold, there'll be smiling, happy children you can hold. Though I realize we must walk alone, we will walk this trail together. We'll walk this trail together. We'll walk this trail together till we're home. I don't write a lot of songs, maybe 6 a year typically. It's not like Nashville's asking for my next hit, you know? And so I go through these stages where I write a bunch of songs and then, you know, make an album and then I don't start writing. I just released a new album in January called Portraits. And the reason it's called Portraits is most of the songs are a little more intimate, and virtually, not all of them, probably about 9 or 12 songs are single character songs about a single person. And so when I came up with the title towards the end of the project, you know, when are you gonna hold the album, you know? And a little less in your face than some of my other stuff. Not that, you know, the other stuff is fun. And especially the old early anti-Bush songs, you know, but they were a little dated, you know, and it's getting a lot of mainstream folk play overseas in Australia, some in England and Germany and Canada. But the folk world is dying, and it is. It's sad, you know. Younger people don't take to this music as much as those of, you know, what's our average age tonight? 55 here, maybe 60, you know. And I think it's important that we keep these songs alive as long as we are alive to sing them, you know. But the funny thing about the record is there's only 2 songs that have any humor on them, you know. And both of them made the top 10 list of this DJ for the month. And I'm like, I'm not a comedy songwriter, but she puts out a list of the 10 funniest songs of the month. And this is one of them. Now this is a song that I wrote on the airplane coming home from Australia last year. 14-hour flight, you have plenty of time on your hands, you know. And the funny thing about this, Sarah, your poem about big and corporations, I knew I was going to sing this song anyway, but that made it clear I was going to sing this one. I thought about that for years. You know, I came up with this song title 6 years ago. It's called "I'm Going to Make Wallbucks Depot." McDonald's, Walmart, Starbucks, and Home Depot. Someday, when all those consolidations are done, there'll only be one place, and that's where you'll go, and you get everything, right? And I thought of that 6 years ago, and I never even wrote the song until I was coming home from Australia last year, not this trip, a month ago. And it happens inevitably a couple of times during my tours of Australia. Someone will come up after the concert and say, you know, you're not like the typical American we expected. And at first I'll say, well, first off, I don't use the word American. I live in the United States of America. I don't live in America. We're only one country. We need to write. Very important. And I always dispel that when people say that, if I can, and say, look, whenever you call us America, you reinforce the idea that we're number one and nobody else matters, right? We're just one country in America. But then I say, well, they say, you're not like the typical American. I say, I try not to be. and so it's a refreshing thing to them, because I think a lot of the Australians, they hate the British, most of them, for a good reason. And a lot of them, a lot of their ancestors were driven to Australia, were forced and exiled to Australia, right? Especially Irish and Scot, ancestry. But also, they don't like Americans overall. They don't like the nation that much, but they do like us individually. And for our veterans, by the way, they always tell me, you send our love back to the veterans. They never forget that we saved them in World War II. Even kids, who were born after were told, we go thank those Yankee soldiers in the 50s. People told me, because they know that it wasn't for us, they would have been invaded by the Japanese and would have been under occupation. So they do remember that. But then they hate the Vietnam War. They were opposed to the Vietnam War even more than we were. And they really, the soldiers who fought, I've met some of them, they dealt with even worse, I think, than our Vietnam vets, because they came back to a country that said, you shouldn't have gone. You were doing America's work, dirty work, So this song, McWalbuck Steve, I wrote it on the way home saying, yeah, I'm going to write. It's not a self-portrait. It's a portrait of a typical American who once cared about things like unions and the environment. But nowadays, you've got McWalbuck's Depot, and I get all my shopping done in one store, and I don't have to worry about that. Now, don't forget, though, one other thing that does is it reduces competition and it reduces choices, right? So that's one other thing about these corporate mergers that was a reason we should oppose them. But have any of you noticed how they keep reducing packaging size? Am I the only one? Right, like the 8-ounce yogurt is now 6. The 2-quart ice cream is now 1.5 liters. Right, your Tropicana, I don't buy Tropicana, but if you did, it's 64 now, it's 59 ounces. They do that, and that's a backdoor price increase, right? And they keep doing that. And they usually do it and say, new, improved packaging. But then you look at the contents, and it's 3 ounces less. So I thought that's another byproduct of these mergers. And I wrote this as a blues song on the record. I have the Burns sisters who sang with Arlo Guthrie for many years, friends of mine up in Ithaca. They were his backing singers, and they still work with Arlo occasionally. They're on out and sound glorious. I have a beautiful drummer and jazz guitarist and bassist on the record. So it's not just George strumming acoustic, it's fully produced stuff. And I hope you'll check the music out. But the new album, Portraits, this closes it, and it's a jazz swing song, so I'm going to try to do it justice with just my acoustic guitar. It goes like this. Some people say that I'm a typical American, and I don't mind that a bit. Well, I once voted Democrat, stood up for the unions, but nowadays I don't give a shit. I'm gonna tote meat eating, I'm my own businessman, and I just wanna have fun. And I don't wanna hear about global warming, because I like to bake in the sun. So I'm going to the McWalbuck Depot, I'm gonna get me some burgers and fries. Follow it up with a double shot mocha. It's just $1.50 to supersize. Less competition and fewer choices, just make it easy on me. So I'm going to McWalbuck Depot in my oversized SUV. Hey, gas is under $3.50 a gallon out here. That's the first time in years, right? Has everything been getting smaller, or is it just my eyes? Well, it started with soda and yogurt and ice cream. Now you pay more money for a smaller size. But the big corporations, they keep on combining, and there's nothing wrong about that. 200 channels and a Wi-Fi modem, and I just keep getting fat. But I'm going to McWalbuck Depot, I'm going to get me some burgers and fries. And I follow it up with a double shot mocha. It's only $2.50 to supersize. Less competition and fewer choices, just make it easy on me. great. I'm going to get shopping done. Yeah, I'm going to the Mama's Depot. I'm going to get me some burgers and fries. And follow it up with a dumb shot mocha. It's only $3.50 to supersize. Less competition and fewer choices, just make it easy on me. So I'm going to the Mama's Depot in my oversized SUV. Yeah, I'm going to the Mama's Depot. I'm as happy as a fool can be. Now it's time to mess up. That really was a self-portrait. Well, you know, you got me. I'm glad to hear you laughing. Over in Australia, the audience is just, I mean, I didn't sing that song last year because I wrote it on the way home, but this year on the tour, I did about 10 concerts on a folk festival, and the audience is, when you hit that line, some people think I'm an ignorant American, as if there's some other kind. They were falling out of their chairs. That's what I was telling you, they think we're all that way, you know? So now that I got you laughing, I'll do my other funny song for you, okay? Yeah, as I said, I don't work with a set list, I just sing what comes to mind, and I usually don't get a lot of laughs on stage. But this next song I'll sing here because it's the other one on the album that made it top. This was the funniest song of the month, according to, this is KVMR in Nevada City, by the way. The DJ Rudy Slippers, who's been playing my stuff for many years, and every month she puts together a list of the top 10 funny songs that she's played that month. And I don't even know if it's listener generated or it's her opinion, but I made 2 of the top 10 this year. I beat out Christine Lavin among those, who writes great funny songs, and I don't ever write funny songs. So, now here's the other one now, but actually I kind of ruined it by telling you it's a funny song, because the normal way I'll set it up is this, and this is the way I'll set it up tonight. Forget that I told you it's a funny song, okay?
It's not funny, okay.
Those of you who are old enough remember where you were when you heard JFK had been assassinated, right? And I was a baby, you know, I don't remember that, of course. For people a little bit younger, and even for those of you who are old enough to remember where you were when you heard JFK had been killed, many of you will remember where you were when you heard John Lennon had been assassinated, right? I was a kid listening to, my parents yelled up to my bedroom, George, Howard Cosell just announced that John Lennon's been shot on Monday Night Football. Because it was Monday night when John Lennon was killed. And 10 minutes later, Howard said, yes, he's dead, you know. Initially, they didn't know if John Lennon would be killed. So those kind of things make an impression on us, right? And they unite people in a way. The outpouring of grief for John Lennon is just amazing, right? And of course, for President Kennedy and others like that, Martin Luther King, right? Bobby Kennedy, all these great artists, Malcolm X, right? All great leaders who were assassinated in the 60s. So this song is kind of a science fiction folk song. It takes place in the near future, and it presupposes things that may or may not come to pass, like, for example, Hillary Clinton being elected, right? Now, again, I'm not going to try to debate that tonight, and you know, I don't know where everybody stands on that, and you know, it's not my interest that much anyway, because I always, you know, hold my nose and vote for the Democrat anyway, you know, if I don't like them, because they're certainly better than the Republican, right? Well, in most cases, right. So this song is also about an event like that, something like that that happens in the future, and imagines the grief and the sadness and the death of one of our great leaders, not Hillary, of course. But it goes like this. Most people remember where they were that day. Radio screen, they had shot JFK. On the night John Lennon was killed in the streets that he loved in old New York City. Fast forward the election of 2016, which Hillary won, and the Dems swept up clean. Perhaps we missed warning signs, nothing foreboded the day the Rush Limbaugh exploded. And I don't mean metaphorically. No one can explain his untimely demise, or how he made so much of so many lies. Left without answers, we'll never know why. Perhaps God was just getting even. Well, the old white men bowed on one knee deep in prayer. The goose-stepping, skin-headed fascists were there. The teabaggers wept till their faces were bloated. Rush Limbaugh exploded. Rush Limbaugh exploded. Horse Clanky was fighting for the little guy. He built a big empire, but empires die. And as he got bigger, his waistline did too. A fat head on a fat body. And he never had children, his Johnson shot blanks. He needed Viagra to crank up his crank. He loved Oxycontin, popped them just like candy, but he'd execute all those druggies. Well, the old wife that found on knee-deep in crack. The neocon skin-headed fascists were there, and the teabaggers wept till their faces were bloated. The Rush Limbaugh exploded. Now this might not be a very Christian thing to do, especially in a house of worship standing under a cross. But did I get a hallelujah? Hallelujah! Rush Limbaugh, he spewed out his hatred for year after year. His inflated ego, his crocodile tears, his hatred for women, his race-baiting jive, which we long suspected helped keep Rush alive, and came to a head on that November day. Spontaneous combustion just blew him away. Mysteries of the universe can't be explained, but I blame affirmative action. Oh, I've been bowing one knee deep in prayer. The business and banking and war thugs were there. Teabaggers wept till their faces were bloated. It didn't take long. Yeah, Rush Limbaugh exploded. Yeah, Rush Limbaugh exploded. Well, his 3 books have all noted. Yeah, Rush Limbaugh exploded. Come on! Those are my 2 funny songs.
That was great.
Thank you. And as I said, I don't really think, I mean, those of you who write songs, you know, you have to be motivated to write something. And, you know, usually for me, it's like a lightning bolt kind of simple, you know, that happens, like I read that poem from that veteran, you know. In this case, it was just my general hatred for everything that Rush Limbaugh stands for. And I said, it's about time that somebody gives him back what he gives out to others, right? So I hope we get that song to him someday. I haven't mailed it to him yet, but maybe I will. So, now I'm going to move on to another great friend of mine, a hero, and somebody who taught me so much in the business. In the only 6 years I knew him, and we had a long-distance friendship because he lived out here in California and I lived in New York. And he passed away, it'll be 7 years ago in May. The late, great golden voice of the great Southwest, Utah Phillips, Bruce Utah Phillips. And a week from tomorrow, I will be in Nevada City singing a benefit for his hospitality house that Utah and his wife Joanna helped build and create. Before he passed, they had the hospitality house roving through churches every night with a homeless shelter. And they would pick everybody out, or they would tell people, and they had a prearranged schedule. You know, the Unitarians on Tuesday, the Methodists on Wednesday. They did not have a permanent shelter there, and they had a deep need for it, especially for single mothers and their kids, right? And come winter, and the older men who had no jobs. And after Utah died, we did a lot of fundraising. They did so much fundraising in the last few years. In January, just 2 months ago, they opened Utah's Place. It has 54 beds. It has rooms for family units that have their own privacy away from the cot kind of dormitory setup for the single older folks, you know. And they're serving women and children and men, and they're doing wonderful work. And I'm going up there to sing a benefit with a number of Utah's good friends, Homer Wills and Bodie Wagner among them. His son Brendan lives there now, just had a baby, so I'm sure Brendan will be there, and his wife Joanna. And I haven't been there for about 4 years, but I'm just looking forward to the morning before I leave, going to his grave and spending a few minutes thanking him again for all he taught me, because he taught me so much, not just about the craft, but about what it is to be a folk singer and what it means to go out there and present this work to people. Because you can't just go out singing country roads and Johnny Cash and the Beatles all the time. You've got to sing songs with deeper meaning. Not that they didn't have meaning themselves, right? So I'm going to sing a couple of hits, or at least this one first. I think I sang this last year, one of his great songs, All Used Up. And it's about an older worker who feels like he's still got something to give, but is all used up and forgotten. You know the old story, right? Many times you hear about this man retires from 30 years on the job and dies 3 days later, because they lose their purpose, right? Or they feel like they've lost their purpose. Well, Utah used to walk through this park every day when he lived in Spokane, and he'd see this old guy in the second floor window, he says, and he'd wave at him every day, and the little guy, he said, was like curling up in his chair like he was almost going back into the umbilical position. And he said, I tried to wave to him every day, and finally, after about the 6th day, Utah got the guy to wave back to him. And so he ran up to the clerk. He said, can I go up there and meet that guy? I'd love to talk to him. And the clerk said, no, I can't let you in. And even if I could, he's not going to let you in his room. He's afraid of kids like you who might try to steal his money or a little bit of belongings he has. He keeps a spike ball handle behind the door there to fend off the ne'er-do-wells who might attack him, So Utah never got the medic either, but he went home and he wrote this song. And he says, I don't know if it's his story. I hope it isn't, but I just don't know. He says, I know it's not going to be my story, and I hope it's not going to be yours. It's called All Used Up. And the verse in here, I try to remember to tell people about before I sing it. You wonder if you don't know Utah Phillips' work that well, I urge you to go find him on the web. He's all over YouTube, hours of him. Utah Phillips' website, utah.phillips.com. And his son is making a documentary now, four-part series about Utah's work. So there's fundraising going on for that if you have a little bit extra money, or if your Halliburton stock is doing well this year. You can give a little more, right? But anyway, this one verse, he wrote this song in the mid-70s. This shows you how forward he was, how ahead of his time he was. He writes this verse and says, they use up the oil, they use up the trees, they use up the air, and they use up the sea. Right? Think Fukushima. Right? How about you, friend, and how about me? What's left when we're all used up? I spent my whole life making somebody rich. I busted my ass for that son of a bitch, and he left me to die like a dog in a ditch. And he told me I'm all used up. He used up my labor, he used up my time, plundered my body and squandered my mind, and gave me a pension of handouts and wine. He told me I'm all used up. My kids are in Harvard, doing what you call work, slaving their lives out for some other jerk. Yeah, my youngest in Frisco just made shipping clerk, and he don't know I'm all used up. Young people reaching for power and gold, they don't have respect for anything old, for pennies they're bought and for promises sold. One day they'll all be used up. Sing it. They use up the oil, they use up the trees, they use up the air, and they use up the sea. Well, how about you, friend, and how about me? What's left? We're all used up. I'll finish my life in this funny hotel. It's lousy with bugs and my godless smell, but my plumbing still works and I'm clear as a bell. Don't tell me I'm all used up. Outside my window the world rushes by, gives me a handout that spits in my eye, and no one can tell me cause no one knows why I'm living and I'm all used up. Sometimes in my dreams I sit by a tree. My life is a book of how things used to be, and kids gather around and they listen to me, and they don't think I'm all used up. And there's songs and there's laughter and things I can do, and all I've learned I can give back to you, and I give my last breath just to make it come true. And no, I'm not all used up. Yes, they use up the oil, they use up the trees, they use up the air, and they use up the sea. Well, how about you, friend, and how about me? What's left when we're all used up? I almost feel like I should ask you to shut off the video cameras for this next one. I'm going to attempt to play harmonica on stage. I hate these things, and I play harmonica in the studio. I don't consider myself much of a harmonica player, but I also play keyboards in the studio, and I don't consider myself a keyboard player either. The thing I hate about doing these on stage is I like to stand when I sing, and I'm constantly bumping these things and smacking them into my teeth, But this song, you can't do this song justice without the harmonica. And Utah you know, those of you who may have seen Utah perform, I mean, he was at the San Diego Folk Festival a couple of times, right? There, by the way, on YouTube, there's about an hour of footage from his last performance here in 2006 from the San Diego Folk Festival. Beautiful performance. He was suffering with heart failure for many years, congestive heart failure. That's what killed him. But he had gotten a good spout of energy, you know, back in those last couple of years before he died in 2008. And the footage from 2006 is wonderful of him, because by that point, his hands were, he had neuropathy or, you know, nerve problems, and of course the heart condition was causing a lot of trouble for him. So he wasn't playing like he used to, and he did spend most of his time telling stories, or just strumming a little bit. But if you listen to his early recordings, what a guitar player. Oh my God, he could pick like crazy. And he wrote some really great songs, like that one you all used up in this one I'm about to sing you. It's called Going Away, and he wrote it for Mann. Mann was the Catholic worker who ran the Catholic worker house in Salt Lake City, where Utah ended up after bombing the rails. By the way, I was talking to a friend who was Korean War veteran there, right? Floyd served in Korea. Utah served at the end of Korea too. And he came home and he couldn't deal with what he'd seen done there. And he rode the rails drunk for many years. And he might have died, you know. Any accident could kill him. He could have fallen asleep and gotten mugged. And we never would have had Utah Phillips, all the great songs and stories he's known for. But he ended up at Joe Hill House, Salt Lake City, a Catholic worker house. And Mann turned him into a pacifist, drive him out, you know, got him to stop drinking as much as he was. And he stayed there for 8 years, and then eventually he ran out of options, he said. He ran for Senate and the independent, and all the Democrats hated him for that because I think that it caused the Republican to win the election in Salt Lake City area. And so he left Salt Lake City, and partly because Mann said, "You get the hell out of here and go out there and sing those songs. You're not getting any younger kid. These are great songs, and people need to hear your songs." So he did. And he left in 1969 for the East Coast and started his career then. But when Mann died, he wrote this beautiful song called Going Away. I'm going to take a sip of water so I can put my on for you. And I told Joanna when Utah died, I said, I'm going to put one of his songs on every album I make for the rest of my life. And I've done that. And this is on the new one, Porpoise. And it was written for Mann, his mentor. And check the tuning too.
You guys want to give him some energy and a round of applause?
Just keep an eye on the time. Here's a quick question. We have to end by 9:15 the latest. You want me to just do a song and take a 5-minute break, or just go right through?
Right through.
Right through? Okay. All right, no problem. We'll end by 10 after 11. This is Utah's great song. Up on the trestle, blind old man, he can't hear the whistle, can't go up and can't go back. The train kept coming, brushed him off the track. Oh, the storms may blow and the wind may rise, and I long to go where the fast smell flies, and I know you're gone. Whatever I say, and it won't be long till I make up my mind and go away. That fool up on the trestle, blind old man, he can't hear the whistle, can't go up and can't go back. The train kept coming, brushed him off the track. Oh, the storms may blow and the wind may rise, and I long to go where the fast smell flies. I know you're gone. Whatever I say, it won't be long till I make up my mind and go. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I normally do 2 sets, so there's no problem. Just go right through. And like you guys say, the reason focusing on 2 sets is that you're going to stop over the CD table and hopefully fill our pockets with a little more money as we hit the road. So, but thank you. Some of you have already been generous and purchased a couple. And I said the whole range of stuff there, the Anti-Bush CDs, the Veterans album called Until You Come Home, is that white one up there, and it's just a beautiful record. And the songs on it, again, they're not easy songs like Streams of Gold, when I sang your earlier song there. They can be very painful songs, but boy, I know that it's done good. I've been in concerts where people come up and say, I want that album for my brother, or for my sister, or my uncle, because they're going through tough times, and they've served, and they think it'll help. And so I'm pretty sure we're doing another one. I've already started talking to the artists who were on the first one about compiling another one for Veterans Day this year. I'm pretty sure we'll have a second one then. So, let's see. What else? Any requests? You want to hear some Johnny Cash? I sing for veterans and nursing homes, so the funny thing about that is I've built up a repertoire of like 200 songs that I'd never sing in public, generally for lefties and activists, but every once in a while it's fun to pull them out, so hey, why not, Why not?
Bob Dylan.
We could.
Your own stuff.
Oh, what?
Your own stuff.
Oh yeah, I'll sing a few more of those, but let me sing in this one, I think you like it. I'm sitting in the railway station, got a ticket, my destination. Ooh. On a tour of one-night stands, my suitcase, guitar in hand. Every stop is neatly planned for a poet and a one-man band. Everybody, homeward bound. I wish I was homeward bound. Home, when my thoughts escaping home, when the music's playing home, when that love lies waiting inside before me. Hey, I can hear you singing nice. days, an endless stream of cigarettes, magazines. Each town looks the same to me, the movies and the factories. Every stranger's face I see reminds me that I long to be homebound. I wish I was homebound. Home, when my thoughts escaping. Home, when my music's playing. Home, when my love lies waiting silently for me. Well, tonight I'll sing my songs again and I'll play the game and pretend. But not for you, never for that. All my words come back to me in shades of mediocrity, like emptiness and harmony. I need someone to comfort me. Homeward bound, wish I was homeward bound. Home, when my thoughts escaping. Home, when my music's playing. Home, when my love lies waiting silently for me. Silently for me, silently for me.
Hey, you got me off track here. I'm going to sing another one, but this does have a connection to my work. One of the hardest jobs I have as a folk singer is in two of the veterans' homes I sing at regularly. Twice a month in Syracuse Veterans Home and the hospital there at the university, and once a month at a VA hospital called KNSJ, about an hour away from Syracuse. They both have psych wards where the veterans, men, women, young, old, are mandated into those wards, sometimes by court systems, sometimes by their jobs, sometimes voluntarily, and sometimes by the service if they're still active duty. And it's really tough because, you know, you look at these kids and you wonder what got them there at 25 years old, you know? And you see young women there, and you know about violence in the military towards our women soldiers, and you worry and wonder if it was our own soldiers that have sent these young women to the psych wards and not something else that happened to them in their duty. And then you see men in their 60s and 70s who are still dealing with what they'd seen and done 40 years ago or more. And it's tough because you see, you know, I've been singing there for years now, 3-4 years, and there's this one guy, Jimmy, he's been back 3 times. And the last time I saw him about 2 months ago, he was out, but he was just visiting another floor of the hospital. And I saw him give a big hug. Jim, that's great. How you doing? He had a heart attack a few months before, has, you know, bypass surgery and everything. And he says, fine, I'm on my way. And I was just there last Thursday, you know, 2 days ago before the day I flew here, actually. That night I flew here to San Francisco, and there was Jimmy in the psych ward again, you know? And tough, you know? And the kids, you know, they know these songs through their parents, you know? I mean, you know, people my age, and most of our age, 40, 50, 60 years old, the kids grew up listening to a lot of this classic rock, so I don't do the heavy metal or the new rap stuff or anything. Acoustic guitar, I'm not qualified for that, you know? So I heard this song and loved it as a kid, and I thought it would be something I never thought I'd perform it, but all of a sudden I heard it again about 2 months ago, and every word rang true to the experience I see in the psych wards. I mean, desolation, feeling alone, wanting that harmony. And I've been singing this song in the psych wards every time I go, and boy, I never heard them sing louder. I mean, especially the chorus. I'm holding it off for you, so you might not even remember till you hear the chorus. It's a great rocker. I'll give you the name of the artist, Dovey Gray. Ring a bell?
Day after day I'm more confused. Still the pouring light in the pouring rain. Still that's a game that I hate to lose. And I'm feeling the strain. Ain't it a shame? Oh, give me the people to free my soul.
lost in time. Don't understand the things that I do. Know the world looks so unkind. I'm counting on you. Carry me through. Oh, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Yeah, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. When my mind is free, no melody can move me. When I'm feeling blue, guitar's coming through to soothe me. Thanks for all the joy that you give to me. You know I believe in your soul. Rhythm, rhyme, and harmony. Help me along, making me strong. Oh, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Sing with me. Oh, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Come on, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Well, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Woo. And as I said, those words, they ring so true to these young and older soldiers, veterans, you know, in the homes. And I'll give you one quick story. Again, I'm going to try to stick with the music as much as possible. I go to that home, you know, where Jimmy, you know, the Syracuse Veterans Home, where Jimmy is now back in there, and who knows how long he'll be in again, you know. But I know he's safer there than he's out on the streets, if he's been back 3 times, at least since I've known him. But a couple weeks earlier when I was there, Jimmy wasn't back yet. But I was in the room singing, and it's an activities room, much smaller than this, only about 10 or 12, you know, people at a time. You might have 20 or 25 on the ward when it's full. But of course, I always like it when it's empty. but of course, often it's full. And it's really sad because they're rotating in, you know, something they're, you know, 2 or 3 months. Sometimes they're only there for a few weeks, and they're given a chance to go back and see if they can survive and not be a danger to themselves and others. But I was there a few weeks ago prior to this, and there's, you know, a bunch of them there. There's a kid there, you know, maybe 28, 30 years old, and he's very nice and friendly, and, you know, his name is Dave, and he says, oh yeah, I saw you last year when you were here. Now, I see thousands of them, so I don't remember them offhand, right? But then through the course of the hour that I'm singing for them, I started picking up on his mannerisms, and I realized, oh yeah, I think I remember you, Dave. And I said, Dave, let me just ask you a question. You had a back injury when you were here 6 months ago, right? He goes, oh yeah. And I'm back for another operation soon, but I don't know why he's in the psych ward. It's not my business to ask, you know? But what I remembered immediately was this kid come in 6 months earlier, in the middle of my session, walked in singing the song we were singing, whenever it was. Really stiff, you know, sat down, sang the next couple of songs, seemed very nice and polite, and then before I went to do the next song, he got up and said, I'm sorry, George, I just want you to know, I'm not leaving because I don't like the music. I just have a lot of back pain and I can't sit for too long. I said, what's wrong? He said, well, I got blown up twice in the back. Twice. And so I felt bad. Never saw him again until 3 weeks ago. And he looked, I told him, Dave, you look wonderful. You know, you're getting better, you're strong, your body is full, you know, and he said, yeah, I got another operation. But again, you know, for some reason, he's in the psych ward, you know. So it's tough work, and that's one reason I like getting away. Coming out to sing, like, for folks like you, because it gives me a break from that. So let me sing you another one of mine. You asked for one of mine? Okay, this is a song called This Beautiful Child. And I know most of you, or many of you, have children and grandchildren. Some of you might even have great-grandchildren by now, right? And I wrote this when my friends had their first baby. And it was spring of 2001. I was going up to the christening in August, and I wanted to write the song for the men. It's just like the McWall people, it doesn't just come on demand, you know. Took 6 years for that one to come out. But I knew about what I wanted to write, and the song was going to be called This Beautiful Child. Often the title comes before anything else. You know, that eternal question, what comes first, the words or the music, right? For the songwriter. Sometimes they usually come together for me, but sometimes just the title comes, you know? And I couldn't write. It didn't get written. And then 6 months, not even a few months after Christine 9/11 happened, and we had invaded Afghanistan, and we knew Iraq was coming. And I started thinking about all those kids being killed on the other side, and realizing that as beautiful as Jean and Francine's child was, and all my friends' children were, they were no more special and no more important than the kids on the other side of the world who were being killed by our bombs and our drones, right? So that's when it finally came out, and it's called This Beautiful Child. I dedicate it to all of you who have children and grandchildren, or no children. She holds the blanket close against her baby's tiny head, sign of her devotion to the life within her hands. She sings to him, sings with the fullness of her faith, faith in the potential of humanity and grace. The world is full of love, the world is full of hate. Maybe we could all agree, start over today. This beautiful child shall not know hunger. This beautiful child shall not know hate. This beautiful child shall not see war or man's intolerance, or make the same mistakes we made. He's lying with a baby in his bed. Little wolf stops crying and dreams enter his head. He sings now, sings like a daddy only can. In Quebec, Iraq, the USA, or in Afghanistan. The world is full of love, the world is full of hate. Maybe we could all agree, start over today. This beautiful child shall not know hunger. This beautiful child shall not know hate. This beautiful child shall not see war or man's indifference, or make the same mistakes we made. Or make the same mistakes we made. This beautiful child, so full of wonder, sees only love, knows only joy. So we must vow, we will all walk with these children, build a world that's better than find it now, and work to see this child won't be let down, and work to see this child won't be let down, and work to see this child won't be let down.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
sing this song just to see Martin dance. And if I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, and I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. And I'd sing out danger, I'd sing out warning, I'd sing out love between brothers and sisters, all over this land. Now I've got a hammer, Martin's got a bell, Sarah's got a song to sing, all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom, it's the song about love between brothers and sisters, all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom, it's the song about love between brothers and sisters, all over this land. It's still my show there. Well, thank you. There was no introduction needed for that one, right? The late, great Pete Seeger. And I was so lucky to know Pete a little and sing with him a few times. I wasn't no great friend of his because he had so many great friends. But last year when I was here, I had just come off 6 months earlier and a whole year of work on an album called The Almanac Trail, which traced I toured through the country in 2013 with a banjo player named Rick Polari. We recreated the tour that the Almanac Singers did in 1941. Woody Guthrie, Pete Seeger, Lee Hayes, and Bill Lampell. When they made the Talking Union album, Union Made, Which Side Are You On? All these great labor songs, right? Roll the Union On, Pete's Talking Union. And they went out and they sang all across the country for CIO unions that were organizing. This was before we got into Pearl Harbor, before Pearl Harbor happened. And Pete was so happy that this album was going to get made because he had been talking about this with Rick for years, but Rick didn't have the labor background to put it together. And Rick got to know me through Utah Phillips and talked to me about it. We made the project, and we asked Pete to narrate the album, and he did. It's the last thing he did that came out before Pete Seeger passed away. Now, the sad news about this record is we only printed 1,000 copies, and they're all gone. But it's still available online. And what we do is we recorded 11 of the great labor songs that Woody and Pete and the Almanac Singers had sung and recorded. And Pete Seeger narrates the story and tells, like every second or third song, Pete comes in and tells a little story about how we met Woody, how the Almanacs came together, how they did the tour, what it was like singing for the CIO unions in 1941. And nobody expected Pete was going to die 6 months later, We all thought he'd live forever, or hoped he would, right? So I'm going to sing you one of those songs.
What's the name of the record?
The name of the record is called The Almanac Trail. And if you go to cdbaby.com, right, which is a great independent website for artists, just Google George Mann, cdbaby.com, and you can find it. And it's only available for download now because after Pete died, we decided not to print another, it cost a lot of money to make 1,000 CDs, and we didn't want to do that. Also, once the tour was finished, we kind of felt we had done our job, and again, anybody wants it, you can get it for $9.99, get the whole album, just buy single songs off of it, online. But we're not going to print any more records of it, And it was a decision. It was a tough decision to make, but boy, when you print 1,000 CDs, any artist can tell you they sit in your closet for a long time, before you run out of them. So this is the first labor song I really heard Pete sing. I knew his work growing up, but as I became a labor organizer and started learning about Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger and Utah Phillips, I heard a great album which I recommend anybody, Carry It On. I don't know if you've ever heard this album. It's Pete Seeger, Jane Sapp, and Cy Khan. And it's just like a 2-album set of labor songs, all the great songs. So you can still find it. Carry On, it's called. It's made in 1983. And that's where I heard Pete sing this one. And it's just, which side are you on? A good question to ask people in any struggle, not just labor struggles, right? Because people always like to, a lot of people don't like to take a position, right? They want to stay on the fence. And you say, well, look, sooner or later, you got to make up your mind. As Bush said, you're either with us or you're against us. I was against it. I sure was you were too, right? But this song, Which Side Are You On? That's Your Line, written by Florence Reese in 1931, right? Mine worker down in bloody Harlan County. And the thugs were coming that night, they were organizing the mine workers union for
husband Sam and her were part of that, and they got word that thugs were coming to beat their husband up that night, or maybe worse. These were days when they still killed the organizers and lynched them. So he cleared out of town because he wanted to keep living. He wasn't there. When they came to Florence's door, she tried to stop the thugs, and told him he's not here. He cleared out, but they busted down the door and they smashed up the house, looked under every bed, trashed the place, and left and said basically, "Tell him I'll be back." And in her rage, her anger, Florence Reese grabbed the page off the calendar on the wall and tore it off and sat there right then and there and wrote the words to this song, which is still considered one of our greatest labor songs, right? And always will. Sing it with me. Come all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell. How the good old union has come here to dwell. Sing it. Which side are you on? 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 My daddy was a miner, now he's in the air and sun. But he'll stick with the union till every battle's won. Sing it. Which side are you on? 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 Well, I say in Harlan County, there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a union man or thug J.H. Glenn. Which side are you on? 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 Oh, workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab? Or will you be a man? Which side are you on? 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 Well, don't scout for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize. One more time. Which side are you on? 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 Tell me, which side are you on? 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 Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to do about 2 more because the weird thing about tomorrow is I'm doing an afternoon luncheon concert and a house concert about 40 miles north of here. So normally I have a whole day to rest and sing in the evening, right? But also I know we got to clean up. I don't know if we can, if it'll expedite things, but people, if you want to like, just gather your plates and stuff, do anything we can. But we're supposed to be out here at 10 o'clock, right? So I'll go to 5 after thereabouts, and if you all flick your big lighters, I'll do one more. Okay, so let me see.
We don't smoke.
Good, I'm glad. I want to sing you this one because I'm in California. And I think it's about 1.5 years ago now, some events happened that are tied into this great song of Woody Guthrie's. And it was one of the last great pieces Woody Guthrie wrote. And he never performed it really as a song. He kind of chanted it, they say, in the last years of his abilities. Woody had Huntington's disease, similar to Parkinson's disease, and it was a long, slow death. The last 12 years of his life, he was mostly in the hospital, and he certainly was not performing. But later on, Pete Seeger and others put a guy named, oh boy, I'm blanking on the guy's name, Marty Hoffman put it to music. It's a story of a plane crash out here, 1947, Los Gatos Canyon, right? I see the head, you know the song. And I haven't sung this one in a while, but I certainly want to sing this because, you know, if it weren't for the farm workers, if it weren't for the people coming up from Central America, from Mexico, from Nicaragua, I grew up on Long Island, we had the same problem. You had these workers who were wanting to work, but people were treating them like garbage, you know, and paying them $2 an hour and stuff like that, and complaining about them trying to find work. But they do the work that most of us would never dare do, right? Stupid labor, hot sun, working out in those fields, right? So Woody wrote this song, and there was a plane crash in 1947, and he read the newspaper accounts, and he heard the news radio, and they said, oh, it was a terrible crash, and they named the pilot and the co-pilot and the third, pilot or whoever was on there, the 3 workers, and he said the rest of them were just a bunch of deportees. I think there were 27 of them on there. And they never had names, and they never identified them. But people did the research recently. And John McCutcheon, the folk singer, who tonight is stealing some of our audience 30 miles from here, John McCutcheon was involved in this. About a year and a half ago, they had actually identified all the names of those who were buried in that grave near Los Gatos Canyon. And they put up a memorial stone, and they placed their names there. And so they brought some closure to those families. But this last great song of Woody Guthrie's, called Deportees, one of his last great pieces, I wanted to share with you tonight. And remember, they always need an enemy, right? Right? And years ago it was the Irish, or the Italians, or the Chinese. Now it's the Latin Americans coming, right? And yet they work so hard, and I've seen them working all over New York City and Long Island, where I lived for many years. So I'll share this song with all of you tonight, called Deportees. I should get back into it first. And the thing about this song, Woody actually gave them names, right? The chorus, you know the chorus? I'll teach it to you as we tune up here. Goodbye to my Juan, goodbye Rosalita, adios mis amigos, Jesus and Maria. You won't have a name when you ride a big airplane. All they would call you will be deportees. The crops are all in, and the peaches are ripe. The oranges are piled in their creosote dumps. Flying you back to the Mexican border takes all your money to pay back again. My father's own father waded that river, took all the money he made in his life. Brothers and sisters come work in the fruit fields. They rode that truck till they went down and died. But goodbye to my Juan, goodbye Rosalita, adios mis amigos, Jesus y Maria. You won't have a name when you ride the big airplane. All they will call you will be deportees. Some of us are legal, others not wanted. Our work contracts out and we have to move on. 600 miles to the Mexican border. They chase us like rustlers, like outlaws like thieves. Oh, we died in your hills, and we died in your deserts. We died in your valleys, we died on your plains. We died beneath your trees and we died beneath your bushes. Both sides of the river, died just the same. Well, goodbye to my Juan, goodbye Rosalita, adios mis amigos, Jesus y Maria. You won't have a name when you ride a big airplane. All they will call you will be deportees. Scott played Cofaro over Los Gatos Canyon. Fireball, lightning, and shook all our heads. While all these dear friends all scattered like dry leaves, the radio says they're just deportees. Is this the best way we can raise our good oceans? Is this the best way we can grow our good fruit? Die and be scattered to rot on the top, so be known by no name except deportees. Oh, goodbye, my Juan, goodbye, Rosalita, adios, mis amigos, Jesus y Maria. You won't have a name when you ride the big airplane. All they will call you will be deportees. One more time, everybody. Oh, goodbye, my Juan, goodbye, Rosalita, adios, mis amigos, Jesus y Maria. You won't have a name I know some of the musicians who were down in Selma just 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago this weekend. And Kim and Reggie Harris, some great social activist singers. And the group Brother's Son, right? Who's very big in the folk world right now. One of the members, Joe Jenks, I've known for a long time. He's a lovely folk singer, but a gorgeous voice. And they were down there in Selma, leading the music contingent, throughout the weekend of events, commemorating the march 50 years ago when the police beat these peaceful protesters with bloody. And important thing to remember, of course, they like to think it was just a black struggle, but there were many white people who came down and cared about what was going on, and also got bloodied, and also were killed and martyred. But we live in a society where we see these steps forward. I'll never forget the first time I went to Australia 5 years ago. I was so proud to say, I live in New York, which just became the 6th state to allow marriage for all.
Yeah.
Right? That was 5 years ago. And, people in the audience kind of, they're a little more conservative, of course people were clapping, And today it's 37, I think, 36 or 37 states now around. And we're going to break down those walls in those other, Mississippi, right? Arkansas, you ever think you'd see that in your lifetime, right?
I thought Utah.
Right, Utah too, right, yeah. So, but one by one, bigotry falls, and it doesn't fall without hard work like all of you do every day. All I do is pick up the guitar and write and sing, You guys do the hard work, and you work for justice for everyone, and I'd love to see that, because in the folk world, our audiences are all too really white, And I think that's partly the attraction of music. It just doesn't have that attraction, maybe for other cultures that it does for us who grew up on the Kingston Trio and Pete Seeger and Peter Paul and era, But so it's always important to acknowledge and remember those people and those struggles, and of course, to this ongoing problem of police violence against black youth in our country, right? Every day, almost every week at least, you hear stories of unarmed kids, teenagers being shot, and how rare it happens that the officers are brought to justice, So these reforms we're talking about, you had a special prosecutor, right? Because those prosecutors work every day with those cops. Now all of a sudden, a cop's accused of shooting somebody, and you expect the prosecutor to do a good job and a thorough job investigating the same cop that he worked with for years. Things like that, right? We should have rules that are uniform in every state for when violence occurs in an interaction with a cop, and especially in unarmed youth. Look, if somebody's shooting at the cops, God, of course I want the cops to shoot back, I want them to protect themselves and protect us like they're sworn to do, and like most of them do, So let me sing this song, which is it's a great old African American spiritual, and good clapping. I like an audience that knows how to clap on beat, because as a folks, it really sucks when they don't, You have to say sometimes, sorry, no clapping on this one. You guys, come on. Come go with me to that land, come go with me to that land, come go with me to that land, where I'm bound. Come go with me to that land, come go with me to that land, come go with me to that land, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom, there'll be freedom in that land, there'll be freedom in that land, there'll be freedom in that land, where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land, there'll be freedom in that land, there'll be freedom in that land, where I'm bound. There'll be justice. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. Where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. Where I'm bound. Ain't no war in that land. Ain't no war in that land. Ain't no war in that land. Where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Ain't no war in that land. Ain't no war in that land. Ain't no war in that land. Where I'm bound. There'll be peace in that land. There'll be peace in that land. There'll be peace in that land. no Cheney in that land. No Dick Cheney in that land. Ain't no Cheney in that land. Where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Ain't no Cheney in that land. Blood and oil on his hand. Ain't no Cheney in that land. Where I'm bound, but there'll be love, everybody. There'll be love in that land. There'll be love in that land. There'll be love in that land. Where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be love in that land. There'll be love in that land. There'll be love in that land. Where I'm bound. Come go with me to that land. Come go with me to that land. Come go with me to that land. Where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be love. Come go with me to that land. Come go with me to that land. Where I'm bound. Oh, come go with me to that land. Come go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. All right. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for all the good work you do. Thank you for having me here. And I hope if I come back next year, you'll do it again. And we'll maybe try to do it on that John McCutcheon ain't playing. That would just be crazy if we did it 3 years in a row. I'll certainly be back. And looks like, as I said, I want to keep in touch with those of you who are on the Labor Council. I'd love to get a card from you tonight, or at least a contact number, because this Joe Hill tour is coming. And we're going to put good artists on it. Back east, like I said, Magpie and Charlie King and Anthony and myself and others are committed to it. We're going to try to reach Joan Baez and see if she'll do a concert too in California. She lives out here. You know, if she could possibly do the November. We have to start here if we're going to make Salt Lake City by November 20th. So I think.
This land is your land?
No, I never heard that one. How's it go? How's it go? Yeah, we can close it that way. Is your name Michelle?
Yes.
All right, Michelle. Well, after all the nice things you said about my songs, how could I not? My name is George Mann. You can find me on Facebook. Friend me, I'll friend you back and keep you apprised of what's going on, especially with the Joe Hill tour. JoeHill100.com. Just Joe Hill 100 is the website the IWW has put together for the tour. And you can and all the projects, because it's not just these 4 legs of the tour, there'll be events going on throughout the country throughout the year to commemorate Joe's life. And of course my website, just georgemannmusic.com or georgemann.org. It's on all the literature too, so I hope you'll check out the music. And we'll sing this land, Easter Land to close out, and then we'll all do a nice job of cleaning up so we're out here by 10, right?
Yes.
Right, Greg? Thanks for having me. Now, when Pete Seeger sang this song for Obama's inauguration, right, Bruce Springsteen, I think I told the same story last year. Don't stop me if you've heard it before. But Bruce Springsteen tells a story, and if you Google it, Bruce Springsteen, this land is your land, Pete Seeger, you find it on YouTube. I've seen the clip. Bruce says, I asked Pete, I said, Pete, what songs you want to sing for the inauguration? And Pete said, well, Bruce, I only want to sing one song. I want to sing Woody Guthrie's great song, This Land is Your Land. But I want to sing all the verses. And they had an 80 children choir backing them too, and they had to teach them too. Because as you know, and again, this is something else that we owe Pete Seeger, we owe him so much. But this song would never be the great American folk song that it is if it weren't for Pete. Woody wrote this in 1940 as he was hitchhiking to New York. Will Gear said, come to New York and we can find you work, and there's great people who would love your music, right? We get now here in California singing for the farm workers when we met Will Gear. And he almost froze on that trip, right? At one point, apparently, he was very near death when a trucker picked him up because he was hitchhiking through the cold February snow. But everywhere he went, he was hearing God Bless America by Kate Smith on the jukebox because it was #1 hit and everybody was playing it. And Woody was walking through this country, starving, freezing, trying to make his way to New York so he could sing his songs, right? With maybe the hope of some kind of fame and fortune. I don't think that was what he was after, but he was going there because he knew there were people there who wanted to hear his songs. And when he wrote this song, he wrote it as God Bless America for Me. And the manuscript that exists, he wrote God Bless America for Me. And years later, he crossed it out and changed it to This Land Was Made for You and Me. So it's an evolution there of the song. But when the song, Woody never did anything with it. He recorded it for the Folkways albums, but nobody ever heard it in the 40s when he was active. And when he was sick and Pete could no longer sing, and Pete was being blacklisted, and when he was already in the hospital, Pete was blacklisted for years, couldn't be on TV or radio or anything. He was only able to work by singing to kids in the school camps and the summer camps and the Communist Party camps upstate New York. And the unions that would still have him, right? Because they were protecting their own asses. The bosses of the unions, the leaders, right? And so he started singing the song, and the kids caught it on like wildfire. They all wanted to sing it. But when they started publishing the song in the books for the kids, they censored the two most radical verses. The ones about people starving by the church in the city.
I don't know that.
Oh, well, you're going to hear it tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And the one about private property, where his concept of what private property and why this land belongs to you and me. And what he was saying was not just that private property is wrong, which the Indians, of course, the natives, so he said, we don't understand. We all own this earth. Why do you fence the grass, right? And, they didn't understand fencing the grass and putting borders around your land. Well, anyway. I think what he was trying to say was, yeah, this land is our land, which means it's our job to protect this land, not to let them frack it, not to let them strip mine it, not to let them clear cut, not to let them exploit it, and sell it off to them all too cheaply and let them profit from it. That's the message I take. Thanks for coming out tonight. Sing this song to your heart's content. The third and fourth verses are the ones I was talking about. The first two are the ones everybody knows, and the last ones everybody knows. Alright, can I sing your voice, son? This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw glory, that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. Oh yeah. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. And I roamed and rambled, follow my footsteps, the sparkling sands of diamond deserts, and all around me a voice resounded. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. Here you go, Michelle. In the squares of the city, by the shadow of the steeple, by the relief office, I see my people. As I stood there hungry, I stood there wondering, oh, if this land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. And here's my favorite. There was a great big wall there that tried to stop me. There was a great big sign there, said private property. But on the other side, it didn't say nothing. Oh, and that side was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. California to New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. And nobody out there can ever stop me as I go walking my freedom highway. Nobody living can make me turn back.
was made for you and me. Thank you, Martin, and that to the San Diego for hosting us tonight. I hope you'll thank you so much. I hope you'll check out my music, and I do have a mailing list there, and if you go on the list, I'll put you on my Los Angeles, Southern California list, so you won't get spammed about gigs in Pennsylvania. And I send everything out blind copy, so if you do it, and again, friend me on Facebook, I'd love to keep in touch, and I hope to see you in a year. Thank you.
Thank you, George. You really make me a better human being. I mean it.
Is that possible? Is that possible?
You move me, you move us, and you create community here in the most beautiful way. And I'm, ever so proud to have us all here. And we know so many other people who need to be. When we do this next one in November, we've got to pack the place with others so that they can get regenerated. And we want each and every one of you to become a member of Activist San Diego, to help us do this kind of thing and to promote this incredible vehicle we have in KNSJ to re-educate and bring some soul back into the community. We want you to be in touch. On your tables are little things that you can sign up. Become a member at any level possible. But we want to keep all of this going and growing and keep the spirit.
Thank you to Sarah and of course Tara and everybody who helped make tonight a beautiful night. All the good work.